Good morning, good afternoon, good evening all. It's Bear here. And I'd like to welcome you to my YouTube channel, aboxwithnolid, a channel I'm creating not only just to bring the awareness that is so desperately needed, and the understanding around what it means to live in daily with the reality that complex trauma creates. But I also want to delve into the understandings around mechanisms and responses, and to develop paths of healing and to improve the quality of all of our lives. Now, in this video, I want to explore, it's a term that I use a lot when I'm always referring to preverbal trauma. I want to explain what preverbal means. Yeah, the word explanation is obvious. It's before you can speak. But where this plays out in trauma response, the critical component is everything an infant experiences in utero and post-birth up until around the ages of around 12 to 18 months dependent, when there is able not just making sound but articulating in communication. Yes, babies, when they talk to each other, they have a form of communication. It is a different way of language. But what I'm talking about, that ability to express verbally wants and desires and needs and so forth. That level of verbal engagement, prior to that, everything that infant experiences goes directly to definition, defining what something is. In the first 12 to 18 months, babies are primarily learning what's hot, what's cold, what's safe, what's not, what's sharp, what's blunt. What's this, what's that, what's this part of my body do, what's that part of my body do, how does this work, who is this, who is that, what sound, loud, soft, everything is defining what. So when an infant experiences trauma, and when you're looking at adoption and removal, at birth removals in any form, that's trauma. It goes directly into definition. It's not something that happened, it's how something is. And that's the fundamental necessary understanding when, from a practitioner's perspective or a person who's experienced this, is it changes how you approach understanding trauma and how it's affected you, because it's your definition. It's what your body's gone, well, this is my environment. This is what this is what that is. I guess an easy way of explaining it is, if you were growing up and every time a person said, I love you, they punched you in the face. Sorry for the bluntness, but that's how I get this point across. From a very young age, every time, multiple times a day. If you hear that term, your body will respond as if that event will happen again or has happened. And that's what I mean by understanding preverbal. It runs in the background. Now, as an adult, you will learn that I love you means something completely different. But until you teach your body that when you hear those words, those things are not, that event, that experience is not going to happen, your body's going to respond as if it will. So that is the easiest, and so I said sorry again for the bluntness, but that is the easiest way to understand the effect preverbal has on trauma. Now, when you look at preverbal trauma and the structures that it sets up, the only way to change those definitions is experiential. And this is why the majority of therapies can't touch preverbal trauma, because of what's involved in having to work with it. Yes, there are some therapeutic pathways out there, but they are hugely expensive, because you have to live and be involved in stuff that you experience different interpretations of your environment and connections and sensations and so forth and so forth. So it really makes it difficult to work with in a therapeutic sense. The only real way, which is one of the main motivations for me creating this channel, because I live with preverbal trauma my entire life, and I've understood, when I understood what it was doing and how it created it, explained so much that I was going through and why I would recreate the same experiences over and over again, and what I was searching for. it gave me the understanding to slowly work with the environment around me, to be able to start to define different parameters for my body to experience different ways of doing things. Like always, I wished I understood this when I was, in my late teens and early 20s, not in my 50s. But that's again, hence making these videos, because those of you that are younger, you can learn this stuff to be able to not go without the life that trauma takes from you. And that is finding ways, like I've said in the vagal video and all this, it's finding ways to have positive experience felt in your body. Nice things. In various degrees of intensity and variations of different things. So that you teach your body that all these grey areas of how good things can actually be. That gives your body the information to form a different perception of the expected environment. A lot of pre-verbal traumas come from, like in the previous video, that predisposition, that inherited or genetic trauma responses, because infants are born into families that are coming generationally through traumatic experiences. So it's actually teaching the body how to experience different environments other than those harsh trauma-based environments. And creating all the colors. I guess another way of looking at it, with predispositional trauma, when you're looking at it from a pre-verbal perspective, you're only given a set few colored pens. It's getting a pack of 50 different colors and slowly working and introducing them in to create these variations in how your body interprets the environment around you in a positive way, not enhancing threat. It can work both sides, but in a positive way, to create that vibrancy so that your body goes, well, I'm in a different environment. I can change. I can learn to respond differently. And that's basically how you work with pre-verbal trauma. Is you have to teach the body a different way of responding. And from a therapeutic standpoint, it's not doing the CBT and all this. Why the CBT and all that doesn't work is because there's the need or the necessity or the assumption that there is a good interpretation that can be accessed. When you're looking at pre-verbal trauma, there isn't. You need to learn from scratch. You need to learn how an infant learns through positive experiences and positive interactions, and the grey areas of levels of success and failure and so forth, to teach the body to respond. And that's why somatic therapies and polyvagal theory-based therapies and all that are a better approach. But again, they're expensive. So if we work at it ourselves, we can at very least prepare the ground to make better use of when we can access these therapies, if you're blessed and able to do so. Or you can just keep on maintaining on a daily level the awareness to make the most and embrace those little moments and take them in. Allow that felt sense of taking it in to teach the body that it can live in an environment that is not threatening, that it can respond differently, it can lessen the severity of its responses, and so forth and so forth. And basically, that's, bar getting into some real complexities, that's the understanding that is really needed for pre-verbal. Is you need to learn, not try to remember what things were, because it happened so young. And the difference between, in pre-verbal, it's what things are defined. There is not how am I going to engage, because that part hasn't developed yet. That comes next. That's post-verbal. That's when you communicate, you learn, I am me, I can communicate with that. That part of the brain is developed enough to engage with the world. Although often with pre-verbal trauma, that part of the brain tries to before it's developed, and that causes a whole bunch of issues. But that can get very complicated, and I will do videos on it. But I'm trying to find ways to explain the really complicated stuff that is practical, not just a bunch of big words. And also have some resources that I can point you guys towards to get help that's within reach. But as I said, preverbal it's all about definition, and the engagement part comes next. So as always, I love you guys' comments and feedback. Please be kind, please be respectful, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.